Part 2 of Advanced Persistent Threat. Highly skilled teams. One of the core characteristics of APT. Advanced persistent threats are not executed by amateurs or lone hackers. They are orchestrated by highly trained, well funded, and organized teams of cyber operators. These teams function much like professional IT departments, but with the singular goal of breaching, persisting, and exploiting high value targets. So, what makes APT teams highly skilled? Well, from a specialization and roles perspective, these teams are functionally divided, mirroring military or corporate structure. The recon specialist for target profiling and OSINT, malware developers for creating and refining implant. So these are the specialized role the APT teams would constitute. You would have infrastructure engineers for C2 server setups. You would have social engineers for phishing and impersonation. You would have operators for real time compromise and lateral movement. And you'll have analysts for data extraction, classification, and reporting. Pausing here, think through. This is the adversary that you are against. If you are an organization and is serious about dealing with APT, you would need to be able to match these skills within your organization. Do note, these teams have specialists with them for each of these verticals. Hence, in your strategy, you might have to bring a similar setup at your side if you want to really beat these teams in their own game. Now, many a times a particular person or a team might be doing multiple such roles, which is a practical possibility. When you are a small organization or a medium size, you can't afford to have SMEs for each. Having said that, it all boils down to the value of your assets. Calculate the loss you would incur in case there is a breach. Then factor in the investment you'll have to make to get an SME for each. And you'll have to do a balance. That depends on individual organization, their individual appetite of the risk, what's their appetite, how much of it they can take a hit on if there is a compromise. So that would be organization to organization. Then they have advanced technical capabilities. They have mastery of over custom malware development, zero day exploitation, living of the land techniques, and advanced obfuscation. They know how to use of kernel level rootkit, encrypted communication, multi-stage payloads, and stealthy persistent mechanism. Hence, generally these type are for large, very large organization and governments. But do note, if these skills come together, they can target any organization across the globe. There is nothing as a high value or a low value. While they will target on the high value for the effort they need that return, but if the sabotage comes into play, these threat actors can attack even a very small organization if that is part of the plan. Hence, we need to factor and think through how you are going to have a counterweight against these. The next aspect is operational security discipline or OPSEC discipline, which is about maintaining separation of tooling and operation to avoid attribution. Rotate infrastructure, use layered anonymization, VPN chains, proxy, cloud redirection, etc. Also about cleaning up forensic trail and destroy evidence post mission. Now these are specialized skill set. The other aspect is adaptability and resilience. Need to continuously test and refine their techniques based on incident response patterns. So these teams would have a very structured process of continuously testing what they are doing and enhance and upgrade themselves, because they also know the other party on the other side. If it is a nation, they would also have a similar setup. If it's a large organization, they would also have similar setup. So it is a cat and mouse game. They can pivot tactics quickly if detection occurs or if tools are exposed in the public domain. So basically, they are flexible. There is no hard and fast rule. The only rule is to get the information that they are seeking or to disrupt the services that they intend to. The objective is clear, the purpose is clear, the means are also clear but flexible. So, to meet the purpose, the path taken could be modified or tuned as on the fly. The next is real world APT example demonstrating skills. The equation group linked to NSA is known for custom firmware implants and air gap bridging. Skill indicates if they are exploited hard drive firmwares, developed tools years ahead of the public. The next is they have strong OPSEC, dynamic infrastructure, and election interference. They are known for it. Next is tailored impersonation and social engineering of diplomats and researchers. So these are real examples. There are many more, but this is just to give you a perspective that if you are against these type of attacks, whether it is related to firmware or spear phishing or whaling or long-term espionage, what are the skills that you would need to counter this? From a defense consideration perspective, how do you create a defenses? You need to track your adversary's TTP via, you can use reference as MITRE attack. Anyone who is interested to know more about MITRE attack, there is a video that has already uploaded. You can use that as your base reference to start with, and then you can dig deeper. You can simulate adversaries' behavior using tools like Caldera or Atomic Red Team. These are methods. You can have your own customization, taking the best practices across. From an endpoint security perspective, you can use EDR, XDR tools that monitor process behavior and memory executions. From a code signing and validation perspective, it can prevent unsigned binary script from executing in the enterprise. Now, this is something which can be done first and potentially easily. The next is upscaling the SCOC and the IR team in adversary emulation and TTP analysis. That's part of the skill development. So you can use these as a reference and check against your current setup. One of the things that I always say is, rather than building it from bottoms up, see what can be used and reused. Good organizations would have certain aspects in place, maybe in a different category. Maybe it is time to reevaluate, tweak it, it suits your purpose and your adversary so that you are customized for it. Now, characteristics of a highly skilled team. Why this matter to leadership? Well, these actors are not guessing, they are calculating. It's not trial and error. They know the only thing is they are working on how to reach more efficiently. Detection and defense requires a proactive intelligence-led approach. So it matters to your leadership. And relying only on signature-based defense is insufficient. Behavioral analytics and layered controls are essential. Now, most of the organization are based on signature-based defenses. You have a patch, or you have antivirus, or you might have certain SIEMs which are based on signatures, which are based on past known patterns. It checks the patterns against the database. That is generally how security has been thought through. But it's not so when you are dealing with APT type of actors. It is requires much beyond that. And it's a concern for leadership. A strategic perspective. APT groups operate like elite cyber mercenaries, technically adept, patient, and organized. Defending against them isn't about luck, it's about having a mature security posture, skilled defenders, and a deep understanding of how adversaries think and operate. Multiple entry points. Well, they often use several techniques, whether it is spear phishing, supply chain attack, watering hole, to get in. Unlike typical cyber criminals who rely on a single mode of intrusion, APT actors utilize multiple parallel access vectors to maximize their chance of gaining and maintaining access to target environment. This redundancy ensures resilience, stealth, and persistence. Now, why multiple entry point matters? Well, it increases success. Yes, redundancy increases success. It evades single layer defenses and enable persistence access. From a redundancy perspective, if one method fails or is detected, others may still succeed. And it's a fact. Think through your current cybersecurity posture or the approach that your current team is involved in. Moment they find a gap, a vulnerability, what do you end up doing? Patching. And that's a success. But if it is an APT, that vulnerability would have been exploited through multiple ways. So from our metric perspective, we have closed that one which was known to us, but there are 2, 3, 4 or more other which we don't even know about. So it's business as usual for APT actors. The idea here is to have a thought process on our side, and the question should be how many such are there which we don't know about. So you would have fixed one, but there would be more which you are not aware of. And acknowledging that part helps you win, because then you are not stopping because you fixed one. You are looking for others also. It ensures continuity even when partial remediation occurs. Of course, there is one more aspect to it. If there is a gap being identified and a patch is applied, have you applied to every aspect of your estate? There are thousands of it. Have you applied the patch for all 1000, or you have applied for 999? How sure are you? What's your mechanism to know what was the scope and how much of the scope is cleared? Do note, an APT actor doesn't require 1000 entries. It will get access to 1000 entries, but it can still perform with even one entry open. So, if you have a conversation wherein within the organization a team comes in and say I am 99% compliant, that 1% is good enough and equal to that 99, because APT doesn't require every door to be open. They have opened the door, multiple doors on purpose for this very purpose. We might be happy demonstrating 99% compliant, but what we have to think through is they just need one, and that's good enough. The next time you have a conversation on these percentages, you have to have this perspective also. From evading single layer defenses perspective, by attacking on multiple fronts, whether it is email, network, physical, APT bypasses silo controls and exploit gaps in security architecture. So, from an APT perspective, their whole objective is to look at the architecture, understand the architecture. That's what they do in stealth. Try to understand how the organization is built, gather information, understand the structure, and do note the core characteristics is they have time, they wait, they study, understand, and the basic thing that they want to look at is how is the architecture from a security perspective, and they test it through various methods. One of them is knocking every possible door and window that is there through emails, scans, brute force. All of these are knocking mechanisms to check which door is open or is opened or can be opened or cracked. The next is multiple footholds allows APT actors to maintain long-term access even if one access vector is discovered and removed. Do note the APT understands, actors understand that organizations will keep on fixing, patching, and that's the very foundation of their thought process, that they accept that things would get closed if identified. Hence, they are not happy with just opening one. While they crack through one, they'll keep on trying to crack multiple other. So our thought process should also be equal to or better than them if possible. The next, common entry points. Let's try to look at it. We have phishing emails, peer phishing with malicious attachment or links, compromised websites driven by downloads, malicious iframes, third party access, which is compromised software vendors or managed service providers, public facing apps exploiting unpatched web apps or VPNs, removable media, USB drops in strategic physical locations, cloud misconfiguration exploiting open storage bucket or leaked credentials, stolen credentials, reuse or pissed credentials for VPN, email, and RDP. So these are different vectors. Now do note, you will have to plug everything one at a time together, depends on how well resourced you are. Phishing emails is one of the techniques. So how are you currently positioned to deal with this? You just need one window to enter. We discussed this earlier. One person to get an entry into it. Anyone compromising, it's an open door for them. Websites. What are your controls around that? Third party, most difficult one, because you might have made yourself as a Fort Knox super secured, but you have a few doors open for your vendors to come in. Are they secured? Because that's an entry point. And do note, the APT actors are well aware of these. Before they even come to you, they will come to your vendor and do an entry already, and you're not even aware of. So how are you dealing with that? What's your mechanism? For third party risk management, there is a video which might help you. So anyone interested can look at that and strike a queue and work on that and build your strategy around that. Next is your unpatched web apps and VPNs. You need to have a process around that. Removable media, most of these are now fixed, it's known, understood. Having said that, how confident are you that this is the case? While major data centers are all in line, mostly aware of the risk, It's your small machine rooms or tool rooms in your branch. So if you have say couple of hundred or thousand branches spread globally, the threat actor doesn't require all the thousand. They just need one branch in corner of the world with one small rack which has access to your system. That's enough for them. So how are you ensuring that's taken care or been protected or is following the guidelines? Very difficult, very easy to say, but very difficult to implement, because the person who's managing that specific entry point might not be aware. He might be doing multiple other items. A common man doing all the work. You might not have an army. Hence, what is your security mechanism at that point? Because that's one entry point is a window to the world for your complete estate. And that's all that a APT actor requires. Especially need to be conscious of certain state actors or state nations wherein you need to have an additional controls in place, because certain nations might be having rules and regulations which allows them to do that, and nothing can be done for that country within that country, and that country has an entry point to your estate, which means compromises the complete organization. So you need to have some process policies, a thought process how you can avoid it. From a defensive consideration perspective, email, you need to have an advanced threat protection, possible sandboxing, user awareness training. The user awareness training is one of your easy picks and can be implemented faster, because your general weakest link is humans. So if you can have that in place, you end up reducing your area that can be used to attack. Using patch process, vulnerability scanning. On vulnerability, there is a separate video that I have created which can be referenced to. You can build your thought process and your strategy around. You can use that as a base reference. If you're building it from scratch, students can refer that. So do refer to my patch management, vulnerability management videos, which covers quite a lot on the subject. From an access control perspective, the thumb rule is go with the least privilege, strong MFA, hold to your credentials, and have some form of an identity behavior analytics in place. This is a evolving field, and there are tools which are currently available which can help you in this space. The most difficult one is your third party, as discussed earlier. You need to have continuous assessment, in fact more than what you do it for your organization, because that's a weak spot, not only from overall process perspective, but especially if those providers are giving you codes, developing softwares for you, services for you, anything which touches your estate, if it is coming from a third party, which is the case in most, you need to have a mechanism in place on how are you going to manage it. From a removal media control, this is also a low hanging fruit. Blocking unauthorized media, auto scan on insertion, implement hardware access restriction. So while these are easy, the difficulty is implementation on the ground. And again, user training is important, because as I said, you need an APT actor just needs one entry point. Anyone would do. That's all that he wants. From a cloud security perspective, well, cloud security posture management, encryption, continuous misconfiguration scan. This is a specialized field. You need specialists around this. In fact, all of these are specialized ones. Especially the cloud security is a growing field, upcoming. Hence, people are or organizations are doing a trial and testing. Some have advanced themselves. The recommended is invest a lot of time on this so that you have an early grip on your subjects, securing yourself. Key takeaways: multiple entry points enable stealth and longevity. Defending against APTs requires converged security architecture that covers email, endpoint, network, identity, supply chain, and cloud infrastructure holistically. From a strategic perspective, APT actors treat your organization like a castle with many doors and windows, not just one front gate. Each entry point represents a potential breach. The defense strategy must be layered accordingly, comprehensive, and continuously validated to close all the gaps before they are exploited. Now, in this, the continuously validation is the challenge. You might have a security report that is pulled out every quarter, every month, maybe, or half yearly. That gives you an assurance for that moment. Do note, if you believe a validation done a couple of months back still holds true, the answer is no. This field is ever evolving. What you have secured becomes unsecure the very next day, maybe, with a new vulnerability coming in. Hence, continuous validation, a mechanism which needs to be automated, need to be thought through your architecture and validated using a tool so that you are managing it the way you expect it to run. So let's see how hackers get in. Some of the areas we'll cover. As this area space evolves, APT attackers or actors would find newer ways to enter. APT attackers use diverse, layered method to gain initial access to a target environment. These entry points may exploit human errors, technical vulnerability, third-party weakness, or default misconfiguration. First, spear phishing attack, the number one entry point in APT campaigns. A targeted email is sent to a specific individual with a malicious link or files. Now, earlier it could be to a specific targeted person, but now with the advent of tools which can send mass emails, this is generally a carpet bombing activity. Let's see who clicks in. And generally, the success rate hit is very high in this case. Followed by a macro infested document, a PDF with embedded malware, or a link to a fake login page. We now know it could also be an image, a malware being embedded into an image, a greeting card, a birthday wish, or anything that's there in the social media available currently. The whole idea is to enter an individual's electronic devices, a corporate mobile, laptop, somehow. And I said, with the current tools that's available, you can just mass release it. A full carpet bombing activity. Why it works? Well, the email is highly personalized, right? Include victim's name, designation, project reference number, and so on, and it can be refined and refined. Can go as sophisticated as looking more original than the original sometimes. Example, APT28 used spear phishing emails with Excel attachment titled NATO funding report to trick officials into opening them. It's just the thought process. Think through how subtle those emails are. It doesn't raise any alert or eyebrows, and people click and figure out by the time it is infected. Next is supply chain attack. In this, attackers compromise a trusted vendor, a software provider, or third-party service integrator into the target environment. So to reach you, they would reach the vendor that you are associated with or linked with or taking services from. You are protected, but you are trusting the vendor, and the vendor is the one who has been compromised. Even the vendor would not know about it, and the vendor might not be the one they are interested in. It is they are using them to reach you. Once done, malicious updates or backdoors are inserted in legitimate software releases. For the example here is software releases, it could be anything else, a product that you are taking in. Think through a recent incident where in certain country planted an hardware which exploded, killing individuals of another nation. Now that's extreme, but that's how it is. That's a form of APT attack, but more crude, but equally sophisticated. Classic case of APT. The organization surveyed, found out critical people, number of people, found out their value chain, their vendors, the suppliers, the products. They looked at the product, they studied the product, they inserted the explosives, part of the vendor and the target audience was not even aware. They procured those hardwares and the impact was known. This is how it looks like on ground and real. But on the other side of it, it is not necessarily those type of activities. It is also about compromising your system because there is information that the APT actors are interested in to pull. Now, why it works? Well, it targets unknowingly installed trusted signed softwares that already are compromised. Now, replace software with hardware also if required to. But the concept here is you trust your vendors because you have done your due diligence and we believe that that vendor is trusted. But when you did a due diligence, the vendor was trusted because you checked the system. But over a period of time, you don't have a mechanism to recheck it, or you don't have a robust mechanism which can validate every time that you are doing a business with, and the vendor is compromised, and that's an entry point. Example, the SolarWind Orion breach 2020, wherein attacker pushed a backdoor update used by thousands of organizations worldwide. Next is watering hole attack, trap the hunter approach. What happens? Well, hackers compromise a legitimate website frequently visited by target groups. They inject JavaScript or exploit kits in the website infect visitors with malware. Now, when example, well, you might use certain social media platforms or job portals wherein either you are looking out for or you are a person who's recruiting for your organization and you say, I am hiring. What happens because of that? The moment you do it, you get resumes, you get profiles. The profiles get inserted into your system, and the profiles have malware within it. The moment you open it up, it gets inserted into your system and then infiltrate. Is it happening today? Well, if you're an organization and you have recently recruited or started a recruitment process, you are potentially being impacted, infected, or if not, this is an entry point. So what's your mechanism to review those documents that reaches you? Or if you are using, say, a conversion software from X version to a Y version, or example from a Word to a PDF or so on, and you're using a third party software or a website where it helps you convert it freely, what happens if there is a malware inserted during that conversion? Is it a possibility? Or you are a coder and you take help from certain online websites or areas which gives you this code completely, and there is a certain insertion in there and you are not even aware of it. How do you protect it yourself from? Why it works? Well, even secure organization visit public or partner sites. A compromised trusted site creates a stealthy infection vector. Now think through which are the websites that you and your known colleagues and your organization frequently visit. What is that you do there? Can it be compromised or is it already compromised? How do you know it is not if you say, no, I am sure? How are you sure about it? What's your internal mechanism to identify? Example, APT1 compromised aerospace industry forum and dropped malware on visiting defense contractors. Now remove APT1 and put your organization's name there, and instead of say aerospace industry, you put your industry there. Which are the forums that you are in? What are the things that you get in? Are you get downloading guidelines, acts, best practices, new technology ideas, newsletters? When you do that, what's the mechanism that you are using to validate that no malware is inserted in? Think through about it. Next is removable media. What happens? Well, infected USB devices are dropped in parking lots, conference rooms, and mailed as promotional drives. Does it happen? Well, you might be sure it's not. Are you sure about everyone in your organization? Are they aware about this risk? How easy it is to insert a USB if you are getting it free as part of a promotion or as part of some other forums that you have attended? A fancy, cute looking USB device. What would you do? Would you test it and install it, connect it? Are you sure you are doing it? Are you sure that everyone who has participated has done that? Think through. Once it is inserted, it auto runs scripts, infects your PDF or malware laced document that executes when opened. Now, this is a real possibility because if you have joined an organization's conference or a new product launch and all of their documents, tools, and everything is given in a USB, the first thing you do is you want to share it or you want to look at it in your leisure time once you're at home. That means it is, you click on the file is infected, and you are done. Is it a possibility? Think through, when did you do it last or aware of that such a thing has happened? Not the malware part, but where you got a USB, fancy looking USB as a gift and you have connected it to your system. That's good enough. Well, why it works? Well, exploits curiosity. Your curiosity is the one which has been exploited here. Untrained personals, offline environments are used for this. So that's not your vendor, it is forum that you have gone in. Discuss great ideas, thoughts, and it. But the whole process, and it could be a security forum. And there is one company which has come and showed its products and shared with the USB, and you don't know what has been infected. Example, Stuxnet was allegedly introduced into Iranian centrifuge system via infected USB devices, bypassing air-gapped controls. This is an example, but you can remove the name and you can put anyone. The logic would be the same. Next is exploiting public-facing application, web apps, and VPN vulnerability. Well, in this case, the attacker scans for outdated or vulnerable software exposed to the internet. Then web shells, remote code execution exploit, SSRF, SQL injection, all of these will follow. Now, why does this happen? Because organizations delay patching or fail to secure all exposed services. Now pause in and look at your own organization compliance on patches. Are you 100%? Are you sure you are 100%? If it is not, then you are completely vulnerable. When I say completely, do remember the original conversation. APT actor doesn't require all the doors and window to open. They need only one window to open. So think through about when someone says only one. At a senior management level, 1 is equal to 100%. That's how it should be hard, and that's how it should be interpreted. Example, APT10 exploited Pulse Secure VPN vulnerability to breach multiple cloud and government networks. The next is credential theft and replay. Is identity based infiltration. In this, attacker obtains stolen credentials from data breaches, phishing, or dark web marketplaces. They use legitimate user credential to access system, VPNs, or email servers. Now think through about it. Do you have mechanism in place for phishing? Maybe yes. What about those which are there in the marketplace? Do you have teams who are constantly looking in this area, checking out what's there which is related to you and your organization? And what is your mechanism, reaction to those? Because that would be used. That's why it is there in the dark web. People buy it from there. It's like a normal market. Example, APT29 used compromised Office 365 credentials to infiltrate government network, bypassing malware and detection entirely. This could be you. The next is third-party access abuse, wherein the partner trust exploitation is done. What happens? Hackers access internal network by compromising external vendors or contractors with VPN, RDP, or API access. We discussed this, the third-party risk that comes in. The use of valid third-party credentials or network routes to deploy malware or access sensitive data. Now here is how you can look at. There are many aspects to it, but one aspect which I want to highlight. You validate your stuff, do a background check, and then you control the assets that they are using to access your assets. You control their logins, credentials, and anything and everything that is there within your organization governance. Now, when it comes to your third party vendor, how sure are you that you know how many users that vendor has or staff that vendor has who's accessing your assets? When you initially handshake, you might get the names of people and so on, but it's a vendor. They might have a mechanism of supporting multiple clients, the same guy, same group of people supporting multiple clients. In that case, would you know about it? Is it part of your agreement? Or one of the staff on your vendor is compromised, he's an APT actor. How would you know it? Or a person, a staff is there in a system and he moved away. How do you ensure that your third party vendor has removed the access immediately? Because you don't know that staff moved out and joined an APT actor using that credential, which you would know during your reconciliation maybe once in a month or once in a quarter, if that's the policy. Assuming that you are doing a reconciliation of your vendor access once in a quarter, you did it today and tomorrow that staff moved out. The next reconciliation is after 90 days, which means that credential is being exploited for 90 days before you even disable it. That's good enough entry point, a long enough window to cause enough damage. Is that the case with you? Review, think through. Example, Target 2013 breach occurred via compromised credentials from a HVAC vendor. So this has occurred. The next is zero-day exploit, cutting edge, unknown vulnerability. What happens? Well, attackers exploit software flaws that vendors don't yet know about or haven't patched. Malware delivery via memory corruption, sandbox escape, or privilege escalation bugs. Why it works? Well, there is no defense yet. That's why it is a 0-day. 0-day bypasses all known security signatures and controls. Example, APT group use Microsoft Exchange 0 days in the Hafnium attack 2021 to compromise thousands of servers globally. Now, do note, it's a 0 day, but it's known only by chance or someone has found it, which means there are many more which has not yet been declared, but the APT actor would already know about. So it's a never ending game, but that's the industry we are in, that's the business that we are in. If you're a cybersecurity expert and you have a team, the whole idea is to get it, find it, have a mechanism in place where you can identify it early on. In summary, the entry point, we have spear phishing, supply chain, watering hole, USB device, public facing apps, credential theft, third party access, 0 days. Attack vectors, human behavior, software trust, and so on. Look at the exploits: curiosity, urgency, trust, update mechanism, web browsers, plugin, air gaps, auto runs. I recommend you take a pause on this video, take a screenshot of it, look at the exploits, and put a strategy around each of this as to how these exploits can be reduced for your organization and eliminate, if not completely, at least to a reasonable level that you can manage, and try to reach complete stage or 100% if it is feasible, at least at that point of time. So the whole idea here is using this as a baseline to start with. If you already have it, you are already building it. If not, good starting point. Now, why multiplicity matters? Well, APT groups use redundancy and adaptability. If one door is locked, they try another. It's multi-vector. They chain techniques together. They use spear phishing, stolen credential, lateral movements. They are not having any hangover of sticking to one. They use anything and everything to enter, to crack. They retry over time. Persistent actor never give up quickly. So you have patched completely doesn't mean the APT actors will stop, because vulnerability keeps coming in and he would know, and you are slow if you're not patching it immediately or reasonable. The moment a new patch is known, the APT actor will jump on, irrespective whether you have done it in 1 day or 50 days. The more the better for the APT actor, riskier for you. Now you know. This multi-entry strategy ensures access resilience, stealth, and the ability to escalate attacks gradually without triggering alarms. We will pause here as part of part 2 and move on to the next phase. I'd like you to think through what we have understood part of part 1 and 2. Take notes, take screenshot if you want on this video again. Take out those tables and check against your current strategy that you have in place. If there is something which is not there, then it's a good time to plan your strategy, work on it with your experts, your management. Get in the perspective, get in the buy-in, get in the budget and the people if required to for those areas which are yet to be addressed to. Put it in your plan and strategy, because that should help you build a better structure around your organization's critical assets. So we will close this video on part 2 and move towards part 3. Namaskaram.